All right, today's old ass movie review is Return of the King, Rankin Bass. What year? 80? 79?
79, 80?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost as if they made this one right at the same time they were doing The Hobbit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we get into the review, you might know, and I meant to look it up, but I couldn't. I got sidetracked. Shocking. How come Rankin Bass did not do the Fellowship and the Two Towers?
Well, if you look at the Lord of the Rings, the movie, that's basically the Two Towers.
Right.
That's basically Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How come Rankin Bass didn't do those two? They just did the end, the Return of the King, the third book, and the Hobbit.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you know.
That I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that it was production and somebody had the rights to it.
Yeah.
It's always weird whenever you think there's going to be a bigger story on something like that, and you're like, oh, they must have done this or they must have done that, and it just turns out somebody didn't file the paperwork on time. And I'm assuming that's probably what happened, or the Botchke just didn't give two craps about the Hobbit. He wanted to get into the meat of the story, which really was Two Towers and Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah. That's where a lot of the meat happens of the story.
It is. It really is, and that's one of the things that I noticed just watching that, because there's so much there. Even in the books, that is the meat of it. We're dealing mainly with Return of the King is mainly a climax that goes a bit long because there's so much going there, but it is the end of the whole story.
Well, The Hobbit was actually a standalone story. If I remember correctly, when J.R.R. Tolkien wrote The Hobbit, he wasn't planning on doing any more books. It was just The Hobbit. And it took him forever to write The Hobbit. But whenever the kid and the publisher came out, the publisher's kid was like, no, I love the story. I want to know what happens next. The publisher actually went to him and went, hey, what happens next? And Tolkien's like,
I don't know. Let's find out.
I give. What happens next? And that's basically, I guess, kind of how it came about from reading his autobiography. It's like it was just one of those things that he wasn't planning on it. He was a linguist. He was Cambridge. I think it was Cambridge. He was a professor. I could be wrong, but he was just a linguist. It didn't really dawn on him to be a superstar. And it's funny because in the book, all the hippies in the 60s started coming to him. And I don't know when he finally finished the third book. I don't remember what year it got published. Late 50s, maybe? I want to say late 40s, early 50s. I'm sorry, I don't remember the timeline. But I know that he was really popular with the hippies. And hippies, from all over the world would come to him. And he just would go out there and smoke his pipe, and he'd look like a hobbit, and he'd have the vest on, and he'd have his little pipe and sit there and talk to these kids who he had no idea what the hell they were there for. He had no idea why they were even talking to him, or why they were interested in elves and, hobbits and shit. He had no idea. And the book, evidently paid him very well for a very long time. Which is good because they're great books.
Well, we have so much to thank J.R.R. Tolkien for. His world building has just spawned so much, and not just in the Middle Earth universe, just fantasy genres everywhere.
Right.
Just because he built such a big story. You want to look at world building, go read his books. I mean, I will complain about how descriptive he can be, but this man will paint a picture that you will definitely see, feel, and live and breathe. It's amazing how much detail has went into his universe.
And I'll up that a notch. Find a fantasy book that was written 5 years before The Hobbit, or 5 or 10 years before Fellowship of the Ring. Read a fantasy book from 5 or 10 years before he wrote his stuff, and then read his stuff, and then take a look at a fantasy novel that was written 10 or 15 years after he started writing Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
You'll see it.
The difference is quite literally like somebody clicked on a light switch.
Yeah.
in a room and just went, oh, this is where all the stuff is hidden. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Just, reading the fantasy novels before then and then after then is two completely different experiences. Completely.
Yeah, it goes, and this is kind of a weird example, but when I was reading about Star Trek Discovery taking place before Kirk and everything, and how were they going to explain all this technology that they didn't show in the earlier things?
Right.
They did the honorable thing. They jumped ahead to the future and said, fuck it. This is what we have now. So, but it's how, and I guess I got thinking Star Trek because flip phones, some of the stuff that was written into Star Trek, we see in our daily lives.
What we're doing now. What we're doing right now was Star Trek, was science fiction back in 68, 69.
I mean, we're miles and miles away. We could talk to anybody, anywhere in the world and record our podcast at the same time. That was science fiction just 20 years ago.
Right.
Well,
really
a little more than that, but yeah, it's come a long way.
The smartphones, the Apple phones, wrist phones. Yeah. That was fucking Dick Tracy.
Yeah. You could talk on your phone.
On the radio.
I mean, on your watch.
On the TV watch where he could sit there and talk to somebody. Well, I mean, you laugh about it now and everybody's like, oh, come on. It's like, no, man, that was science fiction.
It's here. It's here.
Yeah, and then now a lot of it's here, you know.
So we have elves to look forward to and orcs.
I want elves. I want to live with the elves. And when they leave, I'm going with them.
Absolutely. Even if I got wherever the hell they're going.
Even if I got to be a stowaway, I don't care what you said. I'll mop the ship. I don't care.
So back to the Return of the King. Again, another faithful adaptation of the work.
They edited the very beginning quite a bit.
Yeah. There were some things out of it that in the book definitely expanded on, and Peter Jackson even expanded further on. But all in all, those two. His version, this version, they're all good and they're fairly faithful.
Very faithful. You wanted more music and more singing.
Oh, it's here because I'm going to tell you something.
You got it.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. It was in my head since I was a child. I can hear that song anytime. It's got such a great beat. I have played it. I went to the grocery store before we did our podcast, and I had it in the car, and I was like, I just pulled up YouTube. It's great. So I'm listening to that as I'm texting you as we're talking about where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh God, that's funny. Nay, nay, nay. What is it? We're going to war.
Yeah, I should look up the words, but with the light.
They're going to war, and the guys are like the orcs and stuff are like, oh, we don't even want to go to war. We're being forced into this, and that's what's very telling about that song, is they don't even want to be there. They're being forced into a war that no fucking orc even wants to be involved in, and I never caught that until today when I was.
Yeah, I think it was one of the humans who came upon him when Frodo and Sam were captured there, or incognito, had said you're slaves to Sauron, or part of Sauron's slaves. Somewhere around that area in the movie that phrase came up, and it's like, they were, because he had everybody under his control, all the orcs, all the nasty stuff that was just
anything that was impure or impure. You were a human and you were impure. You know, you're on Sauron's side.
There's a lot of what's the word? It's not like Farfanugan. There's a little bit of allegory here that
definitely
reminds me, or just a little bit of likeness to Excalibur, in the aspect that the ruler is tied to the land. And you look at Sauron's domain around Mount Doom and all of Mordor, and all of that is just all desert and just desolate. But when Aragorn finally takes his seat, the land comes back and grows and everything. And I was like, that's really cool. How come I never saw that shit before?
Yeah. It's like when you have a good leadership in any country. You have good leadership in any country, that country thrives.
Yep.
No matter how big or how small it is, a country thrives. You have bad leadership,
Look at it.
you have bad shit going on.
Yeah.
I
there
won't
you
get
go.
any deeper than that.
No, and you don't have to. That says it all. And I think everybody would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
No.
That's why I'm looking at Belize.
This is 2021. Nice. You have offended somebody with that statement. Belize is offensive.
Who I've offended? I'm moving to Belize. I'm going to retire.
I just want to get out of Florida. It's too fucking hot.
I don't think Belize is going to be any better.
Yeah.
However, it's supposed to be a very nice town.
Very nice what?
Oh. Just nice. Costa Rica, Belize. Nice little area. Don't know what the hell I'd do if a hurricane came. Probably the same thing here. Hope I had an American build that fucking house instead of the locals.
Why are you in a straw shack over there, Dave?
What I can afford.
Yeah. So, again, I like this. I like this version of Gollum.
Yeah, I prefer this version of Gollum. I really do.
Definitely. And this one, to me, Peter Jackson modeled Andy Serkis's portrayal on this more than in the Lord of the Rings animated, which this Gollum was better. This hits all the beats. I don't know what more to say about this than if you want animation, this is good.
You remember who the Gollum was, who did the voice for the Gollum? I think I told you last.
Theodore. Yeah.
Theodore, King Theodore. It was the guy from the Devil's Express.
Yeah.
The guy that's out there preaching. It's that guy is doing. I was like, wow. When I found that out, I was like, holy crap, that's crazy. But that is my understanding, is that's who the guy was doing the Gollum. And I was like, what a great voiceover. What a freaking great voiceover that guy did. And it you're right, it lasted. You know, Serkis saw this cartoon as a kid growing up and was like,
he mimicked some of the things. He did
anything else.
He did it. And my God, his portrayal of Gollum, Smeagol is fucking brilliant. Damn. Yeah. And here's the thing. Peter Jackson's version of this whole thing left such an impression on me that even when I'm watching this, I'm having visions of his movies in my head and scenes from it, because I'm seeing the same scenes in here. And I didn't get a chance to look at it, but I was up on YouTube and people have put these animated movies side by side with Peter Jackson's showing the scenes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I need to go take a look at that, because
I'm sure he looked really hard at this stuff.
When he had to have, because when Frodo walked into Mount Doom and it's like, damn, this is the movie, and it's like, he looked at this shit. He really did. He had to have. And
it had to be, and see, that's the difference between a guy. No, I had problems with the movie The Hobbit, the trilogy was way too long.
Oh,
but at least initially, these first three movies, I just feel like he really had a love of the source material. And then to take a look at other stuff, like the other animated stuff, and bring it in. And, he had to, like the city, the Lake City.
Yes.
Yeah. That was basically designed right after the animation. I know it's kind of described in the book, but
still.
That was right out of the animation that he did.
Well, that's just it. Everything is described in the book, but if we hadn't seen the movies and you and I were given a description to draw something, we wouldn't draw the same thing.
No, not at all.
He was influenced by that for sure. Had to.
Most definitely. And these movies are well worth being influenced by.
Yeah.
There's a lot of singing. There's a lot of silly songs,
but that is in the books.
Return of the King. They are. I think even Where There's a Whip, There's a Way is in the book.
I don't even recall.
I think.
But that I can do without the vibrato of the bard. Yeah.
The guy sings like this. The Nine Fingers.
Yeah. Frodo of the Nine Fingers. Yeah.
That's a horrible song. I don't care if that's in the book or not. They could have left that one out.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been so long. I was sometime in the late 90s when I finally read the trilogy. And I haven't read them again since, but
yeah, they're good. Very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember being a kid playing Dungeons and Dragons. while reading these books and this back.
I don't think we'd have Dungeons and Dragons that we know without Tolkien.
No, not without Tolkien.
Because I would love to to hear about where Gary Gygax came up with some stuff. Is probably
I wonder.
Tolkien.
And that was all Tolkien, especially early on.
Mm-hmm.
It was all Tolkien. I mean, his elves, all the orcs, all the gelatinous cubes and the eagles and all this stuff.
God.
That was definitely based on everything Tolkien.
Every video game, all of that. See, we owe so. I love fantasy movies, fantasy video games, stories, books, and we owe all of that to Tolkien for the most part.
Oh yeah, and now his family's destroying it.
Yeah.
Well, what are you gonna do? That's just me not wanting to see.
I still have the books in my heart.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that somebody actually looks at what they're doing over on Amazon and just shakes their head and says, no, we can't do this.
I'm afraid to read up on it. All I heard is they're throwing tons of money at it.
I stopped reading on it because I was getting offended for Tolkien. It just seems like nothing he would have approved of.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Like, I think he would have highly approved of the movies, even to some extent The Hobbit. But no.
Yeah, because those movies, all the animated, all the Peter Jacksons hold true to it. I know I haven't finished the Hobbit trilogy because it's like, enough. This book wasn't that big.
No, it's like that sick.
Yeah.
The book is great.
So where did he get all this info? Did he go into the Simulacrum to find some stuff? Simulacrum, whatever the fuck it is.
See, the Silmarillion was all notes.
Okay.
It was never meant to be a story. It was all Tolkien's notes for stuff that nobody was ever supposed to know about. This was for him world.
So just his own research notebook.
He was making stuff up. So he went, okay, this makes sense to me to have this happen now because in the past this happened. So it was never meant for anybody else to know about. His kid found notes, started putting stuff together, tried to make it into a story and sold it. And everybody was like, oh, it's a book that nobody knew about. No, it wasn't. It was just fucking notes that his kid, who had no talent, put together and sold.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's why anybody who reads the Silmarillion just shakes their head like, what the hell did I just read? Well, you didn't read Tolkien. Those were notes. And if you ever get a chance to read through any of it, with that in mind, you'll look and read it and go, that's no wonder none of this makes sense. That'd be like somebody finding all my notes, just miscellaneous shit, and putting it together, going, "Oh, it's a book." No, these are ravings of a madman.
Yeah, it's a notebook, not a story. But exactly. So I mean, I'm sure he would have approved of all of that, because they do hold very, very true, and definitely to the spirit of it. You see in the animation, and I always applaud it when people can draw and give feeling. And that's not only the artist, it's also the voice actor with the inflections or just the feeling. You can tell when somebody's upset or how they feel.
Right.
If they feel it, it comes out in their voice. And the voice actors did a great job of Samwise and Frodo.
And Roddy McDowell. They had Roddy McDowell doing the Samwise in this Return of the King. Well, I mean, the guy knew everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Roddy was in a lot of things then.
I'd love to have met Roddy McDowell.
Oh yeah,
I'd love to have met that guy.
It gave so much life to the bromance of Frodo and Sam, and it's there big time, and it's there in Peter Jackson's too. It's there when you read the books.
Oh yeah,
and
these are two friends.
It's
that just,
great.
They've known each other since they were born or hatched or whatever happens with a Hobbit. I don't know.
And I think why even I make jokes about their bromance. It's because it's funny, but I think the reason
go for the joke.
You got to go always for the joke. But I think the reason people bring that up is because up until recently in movies, men did not have you're not going to show this emotion or this love for another man. Not in that way. It's not all, damn it, it's a bromance.
Yeah. Well, they didn't know what to call him back in the 70s. I mean, have you ever
nobody
seen
wrote it that way.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Yes, there's another one. Yeah,
absolute romance.
Absolutely. But you see in here with Sam and Frodo a genuine love.
Yeah.
And that's great because I guess we as movie viewers don't always you don't usually see men put in that situation, especially when they are the heroes. So it was great writing on Tolkien's part to write reality, not fiction. In that
there is a movie, and I've brought it up before. It's called Double Indemnity.
That sounds so familiar.
If anybody ever gets a chance to see it, it's Barbara Stanwyck. Crap, and I forgot the two main guys that are in it. My mind went totally blank. The guy was in a series called My Three Sons.
Mm-hmm.
He was the father in My Three Sons.
Yeah, I don't know who that was.
And I can't remember the other actor, but it's called In Double Indemnity. And it is a definite bromance. And it's what happens when a woman gets in between two very, very good friends who would otherwise never have a problem. And Barbara Stanwyck is always so good at playing that type of character.
All right.
But it's a good movie. And it's one of the few movies, it's black and white, maybe 40s or 50s.
Oh, wow.
When Stanwyck was at her absolute pinnacle. And there's a scene where the one man is, and I don't want to give this away, but there's just a scene in it where one of them's dying and the other one's holding him in his hand, in his arms. And he goes, I've always loved you. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's because they were gay and this is, Hollywood coming out.
Not necessarily.
And a lot of people are like, no, these guys were friends. These guys were just like the best of friends. And then other people, but even now I've watched it and, and I've sat there and went, was the guy gay? Or was it just that they were such good friends that this, he feels like he has to tell him this before he dies? And to this day, I'm confused. I'm like, wow. Because that's how I was thinking when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Like, wow, wait a minute. That's some really good writing because it was so obscure.
Yeah, because we don't see that. God forbid.
No, and you definitely didn't see it back then. You never saw it back in the 50s in a movie like that.
No.
Oh, hell no.
No, and they did it again in when you mentioned that, it made me think of Philadelphia or Brian's song.
Yeah, Brian's song.
So there's anyway, I love, as much as I make jokes, I love the writing of Sam and Frodo. They are great buds to the end. And the fact that even Sam goes on with Frodo. Yeah. With the elves. And it is an off into the sunset ending, for the most part. And then they did show that the Shire grew and everything, like in the books, how everything
came back to life.
Yeah, and all of that. So it's a great trilogy of animation movies here. Even though another production company took on the second one, it works for its own reasons. Again, true to the source material. I give this a definite watch. I will say that I had a really hard time watching some of these because I have seen these countless times. Yeah. And I've read the book. I've seen the movie. I know what happens before it happens on the screen. So at times it's kind of hard. But if you haven't flooded yourself with Lord of the Rings mythos, watch them. It's good. It's really good. I still love the orcs with their double throats. They always freak me out. So
it's such good vibrato.
Yeah, it gives them that extra vibrato so they can be bards. Orc bards. That's what I want.
They could have been orc bards, and instead of this, they had a future of singing.
Well, they didn't want to fight. They didn't want to march.
Yeah, they didn't even want to march. They're like,
they didn't know why they were doing it because the whipmaster says, nay, nay, nay.
Well, why am I marching in this mud? Come on. Wait, I'm walking all the way over those mountains to go kill things? They're not bothering me otherwise, but you want me to march over there and kill things that are otherwise leaving me the fuck alone?
Yeah, the orcs actually were making some sense.
The orcs are like, I have questions. The only orc to ask a question. I have a question. Excuse me.
So your final thoughts on Return of the King?
Oh, it's a watch. It is a must watch, I think. And this isn't just the memory of a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is actually watching it this past time and liking most of the songs in it. There's a couple that they could have left out with no problem.
Frodo of the Nine Fingers.
Yeah. Could have left that one out with no problem.
Right.
But yeah, it was it's good. The animation's well done. The animation studio winds up later on going bankrupt and being bought by Studio Ghibli. So you have that to look forward to. Everything, and it's because these guys went under, Studio Ghibli could come in and take over and create what they've created over the years. It's just really weird how all that works out. Everything just feeds one animation, feeds into another, and it just builds on top. But good stuff, man.
Good stuff.
It's good. The designs, the story designs, like you said, they keep the meat of the story.
Yeah.
Got no problem with this. I really don't.
No. And it's rare that we at Old Ass Movie Reviews run across something that we really can't say anything negative of, or it's like, it's, we do like to watch the shit from time to time, and that's what's going to happen. That's going to have to come up now after having such good stuff.
Right.
I want to get irritated and turn off my TV and storm out at 5 minutes in.
And text me going, what the hell are you having me watch?
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, whatever's coming up next week is probably something really, really, really bad.
Let's look for something bad.
We will. So as always, please, if you like us, hit the like button. If you, please subscribe. We're on every podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. If we're not where you listen to your podcast, drop me a line. Let us know. Go to our YouTube channel, Facebook page, Instagram. You can find us OAMR, #OAMR. Old Ass Movie Reviews. So until next week, have a good one.